The Chicago Bears have started off the second week of free agency being fairly quiet. We're going to talk about the positions that still need to be addressed in free agency or could be addressed in free agency and some veterans that the Bears could go after to fill those holes. We're also going to talk about how the Bears can break a decade-long stretch of not re-signing tight ends and wide receivers that they have drafted to long-term contracts with the extensions to Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney if the players do get some. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
All right, Bears fans, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central. Right off the top, if you want to follow me, you can do so at CEO Haize, that's CEOHAIZE, on every social media platform that I want you guys to find me on. And outside of that, you can also follow the show at Shy Bears Central on every social media platform that we are on. But let's get into it today, right? The Bears have started off this second week of free agency being fairly quiet. It's been a number of days since the last time the Bears have made a signing, and it's brought some Bears fans to ask, all right, what's next? Is this team still going after, are they still in acquisition mode? Are they settled on what they've acquired? Are they just going to wait everything to the draft? We're going to talk about the positions that still need to be addressed, whether it be in free agency or the draft for the Chicago Bears. And the first one up that we need to talk about is definitely the right tackle position. I think right now we need to address there. That's why the Bears were rumored to be going after Mike McGlinchey, which did not happen. Some people even reported that was almost a done deal. Now, there has been some talk and some, consideration that maybe Tevin Jenkins moves back to the tackle position, but I don't know. I don't know in regards to that. Also seems like Cody Whitehair may be shifting back to that center position. Nate Davis is probably going to play left guard. So with those positions being filled, right tackle still needs to be addressed. And so, that's definitely the first position up that the Bears need to, because we know we need to protect Justin Fields. All the weapons that we've gained on offense really mean nothing if we don't add some considerable protection for Justin Fields on that front line. Now, again, outside of that, the Bears also their future 3-tech, right? And so when you look at the Bears and the players that they were rumored to be interested in, Draymond Jones, the reason why is because 3-tech is highly important for the Chicago Bears and that system. While yes, we may have missed on Draymond Jones, we didn't sign DeMarcus Walker. Make sure you guys check out the video from Sunday if you want to hear our thoughts on DeMarcus Walker, because I do think he's going to come in and he can perform. But when you look at the Bears getting their 3-tech of the future, that's probably going to come in the draft, but I do think that is a position that's going to be addressed before this offseason is over with. One of Ryan Poles' first biggest signings was Larry Ogunjobi. Now, that deal ended up falling apart, but that just shows in the season even that Ryan Poles wasn't giving out big long-term money. That contract that was given to Larry Ogunjobi, I think, shows how important the 3-tech is for the Chicago Bears in this system that Matt Eberflus is going to run. So that's the next position that I do think is high on the list of what the Bears need to address in this offseason. And then lastly, the edge. We need to address the edge rushers. Now, DeMarcus Walker also can be a benefit there. When you look at our depth chart and having Travis Gibson, Dominique Robinson there behind him, but we still need an additional edge rusher, and that's probably what's going to come in the draft. Yes, Travis Gibson has had some flashes. Dominique Robinson also had some flashes. I was very high on Dominique Robinson to start off last season, what he was showing as a rookie coming off the bench. But, the Bears are probably, whether they do it in free agency, where they address it in the draft, those are the positions that I'm kind of looking at and saying these are the positions that the Bears need to still address in a major way before the end of the offseason. You cannot end this offseason without addressing those positions big time. So let's talk about some of the free agents still out there that the Bears could acquire if they do decide to go the free agent route for some of those holes. Of course, the first one up is defensive end Yannick, right? From the Indianapolis Colts, the fit there with the Bears all seems like it would be a perfect fit. The fact that he has not re-signed with the team yet, despite, being some rumors of interest from the Bears and mutual interest from both sides, a deal has just not gotten done yet. But he is absolutely somebody that I think could fill that hole for the Chicago Bears, and they could still go after a young guy in the draft. And again, because of DeMarcus Walker and where he can play and he can line up in either defensive lineman spot, going after Yannick would just shore up that position even more for the Chicago Bears. Next up, offensive tackle Donovan Smith. Now, this is a guy that, hey, this is a big guy. This is a big fella. You can do a lot worse on the offensive line. Even if the Bears do decide to go young with the offensive line in the draft, you can bring him in either as a depth piece, you can bring him in as a starter, you can bring him in as somebody to help guide the younger offensive linemen that we have. That's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like him a lot to come in. Another one, Ashawn Robinson. This is another defensive tackle. This is another guy that the Bears can go after. especially at this point in free agency, don't expect him to sign for huge money. So he could be somebody that the Bears do go after, maybe get on maybe one of those 1-year prove it deals while they bring along another player in that position. Definitely something that the Bears could look at there as well. Osaya Wynn is the next up on my list. Another player that the Bears could look at, offensive tackle there. And another offensive tackle, Cameron Fleming, is another one that the Bears could take a look at. And then lastly, Frank Clark, defensive end, who I think may have signed, and maybe some rumors there that he signed a deal. But those are kind of the players that the Bears could target still if they want to bring in veterans in some of these key spots and positions that the Bears do still need to fill in. The biggest question is, does the money work out? Can the Bears get the deal done at a level and a contract that Ryan Poles is comfortable with? And does he also see the scheme fit, right? That's one thing that we've talked about a lot in this offseason, how important scheme fit is to Ryan Poles. And I do think that that's going to be high on the list of things that the Bears look at if they do decide, to go after and still look at any type of free agents in that area. That's going to be a big one as well in there. You guys can let me know what you guys think about all those players' positions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think there's another position on the list that should be higher up? I know some Bears fans do think that cornerback needs to be addressed. I don't necessarily know if the Bears are that's high on their list. They do need to add some depth there, but you guys can let me know what you think. If you're on the YouTube side, if you're on the podcast side, make sure you guys get in your thoughts, whether it be in text or voicemail or email as well. We'll tell you how to do all that at the end of the show. It's also in the show notes. But let's move on to the next topic. And so the Bears, and a lot of the talk has been, are the Bears going to extend Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney? There's even somebody who I can't remember off the top of my head who left a comment on the YouTube that said, if the Bears don't give these guys extensions, what does this mean for how the Bears value their own free agents, right? So, even though Ryan Poles didn't draft those guys, but I found an interesting stat, and shout out to Bears Wire who pointed this out, that the Bears, if they give extensions to Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney, it'll be the first time in over a decade that the Bears have given long-term extensions to players that they have drafted at those positions. And considering those are skill positions, it really kind of it makes you kind of tilt your head a little bit and say, that's really interesting that the Bears in over a decade having given a multi-year extension to a wide receiver or tight end that they have drafted. Now, the merit of these players getting extensions, it speaks for themselves. Cole Kmet has improved every single year he's been in the league. When you look at last season having 50 catches for 544 yards and 7 touchdowns after some of the biggest question marks being around him of why doesn't he get to the end zone a little bit more. Darnell Mooney had an up and down season. It was a tough season for Darnell Mooney. And he wasn't able to build off of his 1,000-yard season from the year before. We know he had the injury towards the end there. But him coming in last season as the de facto number 1 wide receiver, this is why you saw the Bears go after Chase Claypool, go after DJ Moore, because they know they needed to add that. But if Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney do end up getting contract extensions with the Chicago Bears, it'll be the first time in over a decade that the Chicago Bears have given out a contract extension to those two positions to a player that they drafted. The last wide receiver that the Bears drafted that they then got an additional contract extension was Earl Bennett, who was drafted in the 2008 draft in the 3rd round at that. He signed a 4-year, $15 million extension in 2011 with the Chicago Bears. He was the last wide receiver drafted by the team to get a contract extension, which is crazy. He was a slot receiver. He came out of Vanderbilt. And he played with Jay Cutler. He came into town about the same time Jay Cutler did. And so while he didn't have, it wasn't terrible at all. He had 1,278 receiving yards between 2009 to 2010. He signed an extension in 2011. He signed for 4 years. He ended up only playing 2 of those with the Bears before, we moved on from that. So, after we traded for Brandon Marshall and Ashlon Jeffrey, who we drafted, he came into the slot receiver. He had 375 yards, 2 touchdowns in that season. He scored a career-high 4 touchdowns in 2013 and was released following that offseason after he refused to take a pay cut. So, again, he signed an extension. He ended up playing 2 years on that extension before he was moved on. Next up, Kellen Davis, tight end. He was the last tight end that signed a multi-year extension with the Bears that we drafted. We drafted him in the 5th round of the 2008 draft. He signed a 2-year, $6 million extension in 2012. That's the last time we gave it. He caught 18 passes for 206 yards, had 5 receiving touchdowns. In 2012, he was targeted 44 times. He caught 19 of those for 229 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hey, It is what it is, man. He ended up going to the Seattle Seahawks in 2013. He helped them make the Super Bowl. But again, so the Bears have not given out long-term money at two skilled positions in over a decade. If Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney get those extensions, even one out of the two of them, they would break an over decade-long period in which we have not done that. Do you think Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney are going to get their extensions? Cole Kmet has already talked about that he has at least had some extension conversations with the Chicago Bears. So at least that points to kind of their mindset there. Darnell Mooney, I do think that it's going to be determined over how he plays this season, if they're going to re-sign him, and the money that he ends up wanting in offseason. I don't know if he gets a contract extension before next offseason, but hey, where do things have happened? It's just, that was just an interesting stat that I found and thing to look into. But hey, where do things have happened? We know that the Bears have not had quarterbacks that they've really built around. They've tried to with Mitchell Trubisky, but now that we have our franchise quarterback and a quarterback that it seems like Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears are fully buying into, they're fully planning and building around and having him stay here. I wonder how that's going to change how the Bears handle the extensions of Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney, because the chemistry there is one thing. It's important, especially for a quarterback that you're looking to still build on top of their game, build on their passing game and stuff like that. So, and also this is an interesting conversation that, or thing that came out that, Ryan Poles never officially told Justin Fields that he was their quarterback of the future, but that he feels that his words spoke to that, right? That his actions, I should say, spoke to that. He said this, Ryan Poles says, "I think my actions have said enough when it comes to them and Justin Fields being their quarterback." And I do think that you have to agree with that. Them putting the tools around Justin Fields points to the direction that they believe that this is their guy. We still need work. We still have work that we need to do on the offensive side of the ball and offensive line specifically. And hopefully the Bears do address that in a meaningful way before this offseason ends. I have faith that they will. And for the first time, we may be talking about a Chicago Bears team that is coming into the season with expectations to win. Yes, we still have tons of building to do. We still have tons of development we need to do. We still have players that we still need to understand how they're going to grow and how they're going to now perform in a team with higher expectations. But with all that said, this Bears team is picking they have picked their path and picked their future, at least for the soon to come future. Everything like what they have invested in Justin Fields, what they've invested in his development, what they've invested in putting weapons around him, it speaks for itself. Let's just hope that it ends up coming into fruition. And we're talking about the Chicago Bears next year that is not only talking about their quarterback growing as a passer, but a Bears team that is also winning games. You guys can let me know what you think on all that down below. Make sure that you're following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. And like I like to end every episode on, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.